Hey guys, thanks for listening to the pod. We've got a cool one for you this week. But if you have any questions or you want to hang out and chat with us, we're going to be on Instagram Live next Tuesday, 8th April, from 7 p.m. not daylight savings time, if that's happening at the moment. So yeah, jump on, have a chat with us. We're probably going to play a couple games, hang out for about an hour or so. We'd love to see you there. Check out today's pod. Hope you enjoy it.
Hot damn, we fancy. We got a timer and all.
Oh, yeah, we're leveling up a little bit here. The studio is coming together a little bit more every day.
I love it. Place is looking fantastic.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Doesn't it look great, everybody? Yep, sweet. Okay, good. How's it going?
I'm great. I'm sorry it's been a little bit, mate. I've been moving house, and thank you for helping me move house.
No worries at all.
Much bigger task than maybe I sold to you. So I appreciate you sticking around and helping.
No big deal. We've got Cyclone Alfred to thank for that, for pushing that back and making that a midweek exercise. And then also ex-tropical cyclone Alfred for dumping 10 to 15 minutes worth of rain on us while we were in the middle of doing it, making everything wet and miserable. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, but here we are. So last week we talked small venues, or last fortnight. It's probably 3 weeks ago now. Sorry again. We talked about small venues and everything, but I, because of the cyclone, was supposed to go and see Alexis on Fire.
Yeah,
last weekend. And that was
on the 8th? Was it meant to be the 8th? It was
March the 8th, during the cyclone. So obviously that was the same day that the cyclone was supposed to pass over us. And
that was meant to move house.
The gig was at River Stage. Not that it would have mattered because they closed everything down anyway. But New Bloom Festival got cancelled, sadly.
Yeah.
But then
I knew a lot of people were keen as for that.
Yeah, it was with Basement as the headliner. It was going to be like a big one. But so Alex on Fire managed to work it out that they had the gig the following weekend over 2 nights at the Fort.
I cannot begin to imagine the logistical nightmare of sorting out the tickets for that.
Yeah.
I started thinking about it. I was like, this has got to be some sort of ballot system or put your preference in, because the idea of just splitting it down the middle and going, right, you go on Saturday, you go on Sunday, or Friday and Saturday, whatever it was, just does not work for people.
It was a ticket survey, so they send you out like a thing and you choose through, I think it was through Ticketmaster, that you choose which day you'd prefer. But then obviously, if they had too many people,
if they can accommodate you, they would. Yeah. If they can't, then they give you an option for a refund or the Sunday or whatever.
I do think, though, that it mustn't have sold that well in the first place, and that's why they could afford to do it, because there was a lot on that night.
Let's put it this way. So River Stage was the original venue, right?
Yeah.
That's an 8,900 cap venue.
Yeah.
2 Fortitudes is only 6,000.
Yeah.
So it didn't sell out the River Stage to begin with.
Mm.
Then if they split it over 2, that's 3,000 per night.
Yeah, and it was pretty full. I don't know if it was
I imagine the Saturday would have been the fuller.
On Saturday, but apparently on Sunday it was looking pretty thin. So I reckon that
most people had preferential for the Saturday, yeah.
So either it was that so let's say they only sold maybe 4,500 or something for it in the first place.
So it might have been 1,500
or there was a bunch of people that just got refunds because they couldn't come the following
weekend.
Or they were
out of town, like they were out of towners for the gig in the first place, and they weren't going to make another trip.
Brady, who edits this podcast, his missus had to work the weekend that they'd rescheduled it for. Yeah. So they were both going to come down for it. And then obviously she just was like, look, I can't go. Brady still can. And so, I imagine there would have been a lot of tickets that got refunded for those reasons. But anyway, watching Alexis on Fire made me realize, I was watching it and I'm thinking, I've been into these guys for a long time, sort of not a avid fan, but like it's been in the scene I've been in.
How long have they been around now?
I think Watch Out came in about 2006 was their big album at the time. And then they had one 2004. So they've at least been around early 2000s.
2000s. All right, so 25 years max.
Yeah, and they're they're a big enough band in Canada now that they're, a pretty well recognized sort of national export.
Definitely shout out to our mutual friend Jill, who is Dallas Green sweater.
Yeah. Well, so that's the other thing. Like Alexis on Fire, obviously, with Dallas Green having his own like side project, City in Color, he actually was here like a month ago.
Yeah.
And then he's gone back to America, like kid up with the guys, and then came down here and then had to spend like an extra week in Australia to, you know, so that's a huge effort on his part. But watching those guys made me realize, like, when I first got into them, they were very much post-hardcore band in the sense that they were
pretty rough.
Pretty
rough, heavy stuff.
It was a lot heavier. There was still like sort of delay and singing and stuff like that in sections, but it was a lot more about the punk element of things. And then as it's progressed, you know, over the albums, they've got more and more sort of like, you know, delay soaked and lots more singing and rock sort of vibes. I would even say they're pretty much stoner rock now. That's what Brady was sort of classifying them as.
There was before they put out the last album they did like a couple of singles. And I remember I bought, there was an A and B side that they did, a 2-track.
Yep.
That I got the vinyl for. It's on a 7-inch, 1 track per side.
Yep.
And that was pretty just straight up rock.
Was that the most recent one?
Before the album.
Yeah, so like Dog's Blood EP maybe?
That's the one. That's the one. I've got it, yeah.
Yeah, so like watching those guys made me realize, like, I grew up loving bands like them and the stuff that they used to do when they were earlier on in the piece, and that's always the kind of music I've wanted to do. And then I've realized, like, watching them, and as I've gotten older as well, like, I have more of an interest in writing songs like they're writing now, because I think at this point, like, I don't want to do as much work as I used to do to try and convince people to like my music. And so, like, I know that our friend Jasper's been in this boat recently as well. He's been in a lot of bands before, and then now he's got Upsetter, which is still very much like a very
fledgling thing, but
it's very much still like close to him. He's not, you know, it's not like a sellout sort of record.
Yeah.
But the band that he's set up for himself is a band that is a little bit more accessible to a wider audience while still giving him the
creative satisfaction.
Exactly, yeah. You know, he's not making any compromises really. He's just taking a different lane. And watching them, I was like, oh, you know, I think maybe I could find a middle ground where I could play songs like this that are meant for a bigger stage. And that's what's got me thinking about today.
Yep.
Is watching a band like that, you know, the way I see it, having a big delay soak sound is effectively stadium sauce, right? So it's the kind of thing that a band that plays massive stadiums, they have really awesome like guitar tones and delays and chorus, and there's a lot of modulation going on in their sound so as to give you that big echoey, you know, emotional vibe, right?
Yeah.
And it made me think of U2.
Yeah, U2 obviously is, I don't know if they were, it'd be hard to call it that they were the first to do it. I'm sure they weren't, but I'm sure like Pink Floyd and all of that sort of stuff did it before them, but they were certainly the one that made it their trademark.
Yeah.
If not the Edge's trademark.
Yeah.
Imagine calling yourself the Edge.
It's pretty naff. The other thing is too, like, I think, even though they're a much older band now, I still think, like, if you were to name like the number one, you know, delay guitar band, right? It's like when you think guitar delay, what do you think of? I would say most of my friends think of U2.
U2, yeah.
Even though none of us are really fans of U2.
No.
It's just become sort of the thing of like, you know, if you think of like windmills on guitar, you think of The Who, and, you know, like, just there's certain things for certain bands.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, it's like the Edge played one note on a delay pedal 40 years ago, and he's been living off it ever since.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
and
just crank that feedback right up.
Yeah, and like, I think what you said there about that particular thing invoking an emotion or invoking an emotional response, it really does. It gives you that like big epic feel, makes you feel like you're sort of within the music almost.
Yeah.
It surrounds you and it really echoes and makes you feel like you're part of something big.
Yeah, but so that's the funny thing though, and what I wanted to talk about was how, it's a bit of a chicken and the egg sort of thing of with bands that use tons of delay and modulation effects and reverb and everything, they're usually playing on a bigger stage, and so a lot of reverb is kind of, and delay is kind of emulating something bigger anyway, right? Like the echo that you would get from a big place,
like a hall, yeah.
But generally, those kind of bands are suited to big stages. And you brought up Kings of Leon before.
Yeah. I found that really interesting because at that, like, just going on that stadium band thing, in that album that they put out, the one that has Sex on Fire on it, the thing that really catapulted them is that when you look at that album in full, it wasn't written any different or produced any different to the one that came before it. They're kind of just this weird, quirky rock band.
There is a progression there though, because if you go back to the one before, I think the first song I heard from them was like The Bucket on Triple J.
Yeah, great song.
And The Bucket is very much like it's almost like a country, like indie punk kind of vibe. I don't know. It was that in that kind of tinny
Sex on
indie.
Fire sort of stands out on that album.
Well, Sex on Fire was
it was on the next one.
It was on one after that.
Yeah.
So the one with
That's
The
what I'm
Bucket was pretty early, and then they had the album that had On Call on it, and On Call was like that bridge, between those albums.
Yeah.
And then by the time they brought out Only by the Night, which was the album, you could tell that they wrote that for the stages that they then went on to play it on.
I'm not sure I agree with that, because by the time that they were being booked to play stadiums, they flat out refused to change the show that they did.
Yeah.
And so they got a lot of people who maybe weren't on board previous.
Yeah.
They went to see them and were just like, what the fuck? That's not a stadium show. They just played it like they were still playing not even arenas, like they were playing theaters.
Well, then that like begs the question then. So what is, again, it's a chicken and egg thing. Did they write that album with no intention of it being a big stadium album and it just happened to
I'm not certain they ever
translate?
intended to be stadiums. I'm sure they intended to. I think they skipped a few steps, but the album jumped them from theaters to stadiums,
and
rather
they
than going
weren't
theaters
ready for
arenas.
it in the sense that they were like not really interested in going as big as they got made them.
Yes.
Whereas there's bands that I
I'm
would
sure
argue
they intended to progress.
that do exactly do that of like, we're going to write, this is our stadium album, we're going to write stadium bangers specifically to get to that hop, skip and jump. And like, I would say the Parkway is a band at the moment that I think has done that and achieved it very much so. They've simplified what they do. And, again, I'm not personally a huge fan of what they do now, but it is perfectly
undeniable
written for exactly the level that they're at, and they've earned it because they've done the thing that needed to be done.
It does beg the question of something I heard years and years ago around that the longer you take to reach the top, the longer you stay there.
Yeah, yep.
And Parkway is a great example of they've just stepped it up. Every album, every tour, they've stepped it up. And it's not without their stumbling blocks. Like that last album, that last tour that they just did, I was so amazed at them shooting for the stars for that. Some of that stuff just didn't come off. Yeah. Like the logistics, I'm sure you read about Melbourne and Sydney and what happened there.
They had Ghost Inside, which is an overseas band that didn't get to play at all.
Didn't even get to play, yeah.
Yeah, so that's...
But I love that they shot for the moon.
Yeah.
For that. And they were shooting for anything bigger than any rock band in Australia is doing right now.
Yeah.
And, and then they stepped it up by going, guess what? We're going to be the first metal band to play at the Opera House.
At the Opera House, yeah.
It's sick.
And which makes sense because the progression that they've been on this whole time, it basically feels like they've been trying to be the take over the lane for Metallica, effectively.
Big time.
Right? And
and Rammstein in Germany, to use a different example.
Exactly.
Like that was their inspiration, was Rammstein.
Yeah, right. But so I mean, like the S&M, like Metallica, fucking
Yeah. Symphony and Metallica.
symphony and everything, right? So the symphony thing is just like a no-brainer. Like, all right,
Yeah.
we're at this point now. Now it's time to do the symphony album.
But see, they've also been kind of building that over the years. Like there was a couple of tours there where if you saw them, they had a violin section and some violas, and they've been adding orchestration bit by bit all along. So there's probably a bunch of it that's already scored out for an orchestra.
So another thing that it makes me think of is like watching Alexis, I was like, all right, they write good music and they're playing good shows, like they're super high energy shows and everything, and they've earned everything that they've got.
Yep.
But like, are there bands that you could think of that are all guff in the sense that, they're writing stadium songs, but really like the song, if you strip, we were saying this, if you have a U2 song and you take away his pedal board, what are you left with? It's pretty much nothing. Like the songs are well-written songs, they work well acoustic, blah, blah, blah. But like if you have that band and you switch off his pedal board, the entire thing that makes those songs goes away. And so like, can you think of any bands that, really when you break it down, the songs are kind of nothing without the production? Because I would say that honestly, the way I feel about New Parkway, for example, is like if I just showed up to a show and they were playing those songs and there weren't all the fireworks and all the other things and stuff, then I would be pretty disappointed.
There's potentially an argument for that. I mean, I've always been like, I've seen Parkway so many times now. I'm always really energized by them. There's probably an argument to be made that a lot of that is augmented by the visuals and the pyro, but I'm always in awe seeing them. I'm of the mind where, the reason why they shifted towards the style of music that they play now is to eliminate the muddiness of what metalcore.
Yeah.
Like when they're their goal when they saw Rammstein they were ready to give up. I remember this is what they were saying. I can't remember if it's in one of their DVDs, but they were saying they were ready to, like, they'd played this festival tour through Europe. They got to the end of it and they were all feeling very much like, well, at the end of this, maybe we'll knock it on the head.
Yeah.
And then they saw Rammstein and they said they saw them play a style of music that people in the front row, right to the back, could understand what was being said. Every, kick drum beat was able to be, you can hear it. There's clarity and you're getting the same experience at the back you're getting at the front.
Well, that's exactly.
And so they've shifted so it's more simple, I guess.
Well, and then that's exactly the point though, right? So then that is.
You can look at it as either dumbing down their music.
The music has come, like, at this point, like, for them to get to the stages, the music had to come first. They had to go, right, the music has to change. It's the thing that's between us and leveling up to that bigger stage, as opposed to, like, with the Kings of Leon thing, the music was the thing that got them to the bigger stages, but that's not what they were trying to do.
Yeah, big time.
So then the next question is, like, who are the new bands that are doing the stadium thing? And, like, we sort of had a chat about this before and we couldn't really come up with much in terms of rock.
Yeah. It's certainly not rock.
Yeah.
Or anything that is rock that is playing stadiums now is, or at least in Australia, let's quantify that we're talking about Australian stadiums.
Yeah, of course.
Is heritage.
Yeah.
And predominantly really male.
Yeah.
We're talking your John Bon Jovi's, your Red Hot Chili Peppers, your Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
Coldplay, if you can class that as rock. And anything that's certainly anything that's new, let's put in the last, that's really blown up in the last 10 years. From what I can see, is female and pop, or it's country music.
Yeah. Well, so you bring up Red Hot Chili Peppers. That does remind me when they played here, Post Malone opened for them.
Yeah.
So when you think like delay soaked and effect soaked, performances, like his vocals are always super heavily affected.
Yeah.
And his
And he's-
songs
and-
are written to be big stadium songs.
Yeah.
But also he's got this country vibe that's been popping up over the last couple of years as well.
Yeah. There's probably an argument there for like what's the difference between him and Jelly Roll? Like they've got the same aesthetics.
Yeah.
Jelly Roll's a bit of a bigger dude,
Yeah.
but in terms of what's going on there, it's Jelly Roll. You could probably argue Jelly Roll is Post Malone for country,
Yep.
and or Post Malone is Jelly Roll for not country. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
well,
it's like that.
So another thing I brought up was that I've been noticing, like in Brisbane at the moment, there was Johnny Ringo's for years, which is the cowboy bar.
Lefties.
Lefties
has a country vibe.
has a country
Oh no, it's
vibe.
sort of more bluesy, isn't it?
It's more of like a House of Blues sort
Yeah,
of like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
got
you're
that, but there's definitely a bit of that there. I can't remember what the name of the other one is that's opened up next to like Prohibition in the Valley, but there's a country bar. It's like Hoot
what is that called?
Hoot Nannies or something dumb like that.
Yeah.
And then there's one across from Rick's now that's called Chattanooga.
Where is that?
It's next to it's across
Next
from RG's
next
and
to-
Rick's.
Lutz.
And next to the pizza place. Yeah. At the
God.
yeah, it's like almost right on the corner there. But so I was talking to my
God,
friends
has that
the other
become a
night.
country venue?
Not the one right on the corner
Oh.
next to it.
Last I knew there was an R&B nightclub.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so then there proves the point of like Suncorp was it Luke Combs that came and played?
Luke Bryant, I think.
And Luke Bryant. So
Yeah.
there's been a couple of big country things there. And I don't know what they did from this time, but I've seen a lot of these country concerts that go on in stadiums where they put the stage in the middle.
Yep.
They do it on the round.
Round, yeah.
And so like I've seen some videos of some massive big like sweeping shots, around the backs of these crowds to filming these shows and stuff. And it does give a U2 vibe. It gives a big, huge stadium vibe. A little like Ed Sheeran did it in the round as well when he did Suncorp Stadium. And so, yeah.
Coldplay did in the round.
Coldplay is another one. Huge, big, effect-soaked band.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, when you said before about, like, who is the new U2, I was like, Coldplay, but they're not new by any stretch of the imagination. Like, Yellow came out in 1996.
Yeah. But when
So
did
they're not new.
when did the first U2 song come out? That would have been like late 70s, early 80s?
Oh, I don't think they were ever 70s, but definitely 80s. Yeah,
Yeah,
early
right.
80s.
Very early
Like,
80s.
Yeah. Still haven't found what I'm looking for is,
84 maybe?
yeah,
Yeah.
pre-85.
Yeah, right.
But, yeah, like it's, that it was, being an Irish band, they were height of that sort of,
Yeah.
like, IRA era.
Yeah, yeah.
Like-
and yet you were also saying then the other half of it is pop.
Yeah. I mean, you got to look at Taylor Swift
Mm.
and Pink and, those just runs of setting records
Yeah.
in terms of attendance numbers. And
Yeah, absolutely.
like those every time between Ed Sheeran, Pink, Taylor Swift,
Yeah.
and maybe Elton John,
Yeah.
they just take turns setting new records in terms of attendance numbers,
Yeah.
which does take us back to that small venue chat that we had that was about like, when we can set numbers like that, surely we can pump up the numbers of people turning up and seeing music.
Yeah.
So, but
Also, just completely separate from all of this, but just it is news today that Brad Banducci, the CEO of Woolworths, is now become the CEO. He's been announced as the CEO of Ticketmaster. So yeah, Ticketmaster's new CEO is the guy who just spent the last 10 years fucking over the Australian public with groceries, and now he's going to fuck us over on ticket prices. Not that Ticketmaster has been lacking in that department.
I mean, I got to be careful on that front
Mm.
in that I work at a venue
Yeah, true.
that is ticketed by Moshticks, who's owned by that company.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
Like, I'd like to put it on the record that, yeah, I'm not a big fan of the amount of, fees and the way that that's all being handled.
Yeah.
But also, I'm not above
It
working.
is the state of play at the moment.
Yeah, it is the state of play. I'm not
Yeah.
above working for a venue and marketing because I believe in the music that gets into that venue.
Well, it's the
It's a bit
same.
unfortunate, the number of fees and all that sort of stuff. But people also got, like, I'm not defending it in any way, but,
Yeah, I feel the same though as like, with the groceries thing. It's like I shop at Woolworths all the time instead of Coles because I use the reward stuff and everything, the little bones that they throw us with that stuff. But like in the end, you can be as mad as you want at the grocery stores, but they're the ones selling the food. So you got to use them. And then you can be as mad as you want at Ticketmaster, but they're the ones that own all the ticket shit. So like,
it's not, it's
we
not
don't
the
have to be
ideal
happy
system.
about
And,
it. But
yeah, I mean, by all means, like, vote with your wallet.
yeah,
But
that's
it may mean not seeing your favorite artist.
Yeah.
I guess that's the reality of it. Is
Yeah.
protesting looks like missing out on your favorite artist.
I will say
by
too,
not rewarding them for the fees.
there was a comedian the other day, Josh Johnson, who refunded a whole show, I think, actually, because he could see that there was a bunch of resellers. So like SeatGeek, I think.
I almost wanted to bring this up, but yeah, keep going.
Yeah, it was the SeatGeek, or was it StubHub or whatever? They had just bought a whole bunch of, were selling tickets, so they'd bought an allocation
They bought
of
in
them
bulk and then reselling them
at like double the
extortionate,
price.
yeah.
Like they were like a $70 ticket, they were selling them for $170.
Yeah.
And so he just went through and said, "Hey, look, sorry everyone, but I'm going to refund all these tickets and we're going to work out a way to redo this so that this can't happen, because I've had people messaging me and complaining about the cost of my tickets, and it's not me, and also you guys shouldn't have to pay for that."
The problem, I think, and I know this, we don't want to jump into a whole other podcast topic here, but the problem here is that the consumer, unfortunately, is running toward, like, even though everyone's like, everything's so expensive, what the hell? People are still using these systems and buying them. I heard of people spending $500 to go and see Drake.
Yeah.
It's like, well, one, it's not worth that for a start. But two, like, don't buy from resellers. Like, don't reward this behavior. It's unfortunate, but maybe just miss out on your artist.
Yeah.
Because that not anywhere close to that is going in the artist's pocket.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like, don't reward that.
Yeah.
I've never bought a scalper's ticket. I've never bought someone that's
try to go as direct as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I really struggle with understanding why people will spend $500, $600, $700 to see an artist. And it's like, my God.
Well, we
Don't do that.
We had on the Upsetter Instagram, there was someone messaged one day and said, "Oh, hey, I'd really like to buy merch. What's the best way for me to buy merch?" And I went, "Oh, well, it's up on."
What they're really asking
it's
there is what's the best way that puts the most in your pocket?
Exactly. Yeah. She said, like, "Look, I want to buy. I see it's on Bandcamp, but like, I'm going to be down there in Brisbane next week. She's not from here. Is it better if I bought it off you in person, because it would save." And I just thought that question was, I was like, that's the ethos, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
and that's also not to shit on Bandcamp as well. I don't know who owns it now. There was a time there at least where they were doing
it's not
the free Fridays or free artist Fridays or whatever it was, where they gave 100% of the sales to
it's
artists.
I don't know, prohibitive to use. Like Shopify is a very expensive platform to have. I don't know what their fees are like and everything, but to subscribe to having Shopify is pretty expensive unless you're obviously doing a high throughput.
Yeah.
A band that's selling some merch online infrequently, not really designed for them. Bandcamp, it's great for. It's like a 10 or 15%, but like in the end, it's a way to have it up there that you only pay per sale.
Yeah.
But yeah, that question I really appreciated. And so same with the ticket thing. It's like if you can buy tickets directly from somebody off of their website, I'd always rather do that.
Yeah. I feel like we're veering from the topic.
Well, to bring it back, the main thing is like with these sort of big stadium acts and everything, you know, obviously there's big pop acts, there's everything like that. But there's also where we were talking about how the 90s are sort of coming back, and you had the Nirvana thing of like, we want to cut, there's all this, you know, big hair and makeup and crazy stages and blah, blah, blah. And they just took it back to like, we wear what we want, we look how we want, and we play. It's just us on stage and we just play. So do we think that maybe there isn't the next U2 coming when it comes to like big, heavily affected bands? Maybe it will be very stripped back music and very stripped back shows.
Maybe. And I know, I know that there's going to be no prizes for guessing that it's me who's talking about Sleep Token, but if there's anything on the rock side of things that is going to break through to end up playing stadiums, I feel it will be Sleep Token.
Yeah.
Proven somewhat by the fact that they and I know it's iTunes, so it's such a piddly part of the market, but for them to even be outselling Selena Gomez, like released on the same day, that's a huge stat.
Yeah.
That's just a single and an album to come. But if you look at the meteoric rise, there's been 7 years. I saw a video the other day, 2018, and I wanted to go back and look at when I first posted about Sleep Token. I feel like it was 2016. But the Great Escape Festival in the UK posted a video of them playing a showcase at the Great Escape Festival, because it's sort of like the British equivalent of Big Sound.
Yeah.
Well, Big Sound is the Australian equivalent of that over in the UK. They had a showcase at a venue that looks smaller. The stage looks smaller than what Crowbar used to have.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, the bones of the show that they play now is there. They have like very DIY made masks, all of that sort of stuff. And they're playing their hearts out, you know, and very delay affected music. And then you fast forward to 2025, outsell Selena Gomez. You know, the last time that Bring Me the Horizon played the River Stage here in Brisbane, which I know is not a stadium, but is, like I said before, 8,900, totally sold out. I would absolutely put money on that 50% or more of the people there with just to see Sleep Token. Yeah. That was a great move by Bring Me the Horizon to bring them. And props to North Lane for being the first band to bring them to Australia.
Likewise, actually, I would say that the tying in with the country thing as well, and like the effects and everything, Bill Murray, the band Bill Murray, they went on tour with Sleep Token. Yeah. And I don't know what size venues Sleep Token were playing in Europe, but yeah, Bill Murray went on tour with them, and like they were at least, 5,000 sort of cap, these rooms. And they went along, and they're very sort of chalk and cheese on paper, right? Like Sleep Token and Bill Murray. Bill Murray's more like got like a post-hardcore but country tinge. It's very tongue-in-cheek. There's lots of joking around and stuff, and it's not serious feeling. But so for them to play for them, and they also opened for Baby Metal in a few shows in Japan to like 20,000 people. Yeah. And I think they're another contender for that. And the fact that them and Sleep Token were on the same bill is very telling, because I think in this or in separate ways, they're going to be very big bands in the next 10 years.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. It explains, I'd forgotten about the Bill Murray Sleep Token thing. It explains why the saxophone player from Bill Murray plays the saxophone part on Emergence.
On the new Sleep Token
Rose,
song. Yeah.
She made real good use of that on social media.
Yeah,
She's been posting about it. Like, she was like walking through an airport at the time. She's like posted some content saying like looking around to see if anyone is listening to listening to saxophone baby making music.
Yeah.
and wondering if they know it was me who played on the new Sleep Token song.
Yeah.
Things like that. And it's just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
She is capitalizing on that moment. Good for her.
Absolutely. I watched their live set that they did a film, a taping.
I'm assuming you mean Bill Murray.
Bill Murray,
Yeah.
They did a taping of a show in Atlanta that was like a sellout, and not a huge. It was probably like a 15 or 2,000 cap venue. Which is still pretty big, but like
Theater.
they
It's a
played
theater,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, so they played in a theater. And their show was just like perfect start to finish. But I will also say, like, not just as a fan of theirs, but just as a musician, watching them play, there's a lot of stuff on backing track, but their drummer absolutely rips. Gabby sings and plays sax and plays flute.
And the energy she puts
and
out.
the energy is
Yeah,
nuts.
yeah.
John, the vocalist, he is like Bill Murray himself. He, sings and plays guitar, and the energy that he's got's nuts. And then their guitarist screams like a motherfucker. And so each one of them had like a front man moment. You know what I mean?
They're all the main character.
Yeah,
at some
yeah.
point,
Gabby had a whole song where, almost a whole song where she was singing and John was playing guitar. And so they were playing guitar and she's fronting the band. So every single one of them could front the band, no worries at all. So watching four people that are all absolutely top of their game play together is nuts to see.
Can I just say, like, definitely those guys, Bill Murray and Idola, I think, are the heirs apparent to the Dance Gavin Dance lane.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they're taking that and running with it, and I think
they're two really good ones to check out.
Yeah. And until Dance Gavin Dance finds a new, they have a new singer that.
Yeah, they do. I think it is the singer from Idola.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Have they put out new music with him yet, or no?
No, they put out a couple songs with him. Yeah,
they have.
Yeah. In the last sort of year or so.
Well, I should go back and listen to them.
Yeah,
but I think those two bands, it's their moment.
Yeah, I think we got
to the top of that pile.
I think we got to the bottom of it though with Sleep Token, Bill Murray, probably. It's still in like the heavy sort of lane that we're in, so we're biased towards that, obviously. But I think in terms of like bands that are really, baby metal as well, bands that can just really draw a crowd, knock it out of the park.
Do you know who else might be in that realm of ones to watch the next 10 years for?
Yeah,
like stepping up to that stadium level, or at least leveling up. Don Brocco.
Don Brocco, absolutely. That's a great one. Yeah.
Don Brocco. Like, I think they're probably due some new music before the end of the year.
Yeah.
Like, they haven't put anything out for a while.
Yeah.
So if they get something out before the end of the year and it's epic, then I think they could definitely be ones to watch for the next 10 years.
Who's the other band that's just like Don Brocco? I don't know. I'll put it in the description. We've run over our time, but I think we got to the bottom of it. I wasn't quite sure where we were going to end up with that, because we were racking our brains for like where is the new music portion of this? And
I should probably also like, and it's not new music, but like, let's just at least mention them, because we can't have a discussion about Delay without just mentioning Dead Letter Circus.
But exactly. Yeah, Dead Letter Circus and like Butterfly Effect and Carnival, like
Tesseract.
Those bands. Yeah, Tesseract's another one.
Just hashtagging all of the bands just to make sure we mention them.
Yeah, they're all those live in that space. But yeah, it is it's an interesting thing after seeing Alexis and just thinking like, yeah, you can have good songs, but if you add delay to them, it's going to make them better. So I wonder if you can just have bad songs and add delay to them and you still win. And if you can think of a band out there that is, where are you? You're up here. If you can think of a band out there that writes trash songs but puts heaps of effects on them and people love them for it, I want to hear about it, because I have seen bands play like that before and thought, fuck you, but also good on ya. I think that's
on that note, fuck you, but good on ya.
Fuck you, but good on ya.
Is that our new sign off?
Yeah.
Fuck you, but good on ya.
Yeah, sure. Like it. Bye.